Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Hello, how are you? This is Heena. I am a poet from heart. And these lines are for us who believe in poetry, who believe in the power of a poem. And today we are going to defend poetry along with P. Shelley. How are you? We've started with this series, as you know, it is called Lines That Made Literature. Today's line is from A Defense of Poetry, an unfinished essay. An unfinished essay by P.B. Shelley, the romantic writer. Okay, P.B. Shelley lived from 1792 to 1822. That's a very, very small lifespan, you can say, hardly 29 years. He passed away because of drowning. Okay. But the work he has given is very impactful. So, Shelley's unfinished essay is a defense of poetry, which was published posthumously in 1840 in essays, letters from abroad, translations, and fragments. Okay. Now, why did Shelley write a defense of poetry? He wrote it because his friend Thomas Love Peacock had written a work in which Peacock attacked poetry. The name of this work by Peacock was The Four Ages of Poetry. He wrote it in 1820. So understand, Peacock is a friend of Shelley. Peacock criticizes poetry through his work The Four Ages of Poetry as a rebuttal or as a direct response to the Four Ages of Poetry. Shelley wrote a defense of poetry. Easy? It's a persuasive essay. Okay. What is a persuasive essay? Where the author tries to convince the readers that whatever he's saying is true. Here, Shelley tries to convince the readers that poetry is pivotal, is essential to human experience. Shelley uses examples of Homer's poetry, which has lasted to the present day. Shelley concludes that poetry is eternal. Quote, poetry is a sword of lightning. There are many quotes that you will love. At the end of the video, I have included those important lines from this essay. But first, what I want to teach you is the summary and the analysis of this work. You should know the structure of a defense of poetry before we enter into the summary. A defense of poetry is usually divided into three main parts. Okay, three main parts. The first part discusses the definition of poetry and the nature of poetry. Second part explores the historical significance of poetry and the moral value of poetry. Whereas the third part defends poetry against criticism. Nice? Summary of the first part. Come, let's read the quote together. Look at the picture. Poetry, in a general sense, may be defined to be the expression of the imagination, and poetry is connate with the origin of man, parallel to the origin of man. In the first part, Shelley draws a sharp line or a divide between reason and imagination. For Shelley, imagination is the higher force. Listen to the lines from the book. Reason is to imagination as the instrument to the agent, as the body to the spirit, as the shadow to the substance, which means reason is just a tool, imagination is the soul that drives creation. So Shelley starts the essay by bringing imagination at a higher place as compared to reason, and then Shelley comes to the definition of poetry. He asks, what is poetry? He answers it. Poetry is the expression of the imagination. Very powerful line. Poetry is the expression of the imagination. Shelley believed poetry holds the power to reveal universal truths, to touch the deepest parts of human soul, and to offer a vision for the future. And this is what makes poetry very essential or quintessential to the society. Done with the first part. Now let's talk about the second part of poetry. Here we discuss the history of poetry, right? Shelley traces the history of poetry. Ancient poets, Shelley says, had a unique advantage. Why? Because everything was so fresh, everything was new, every image they created was original, every idea they created was original. Later poets had no place to be original. They could only imitate what had already been imagined. So here Shelley gives a warning sign. He says poets should not preach their personal sense of morality. Rather, they should aim for timeless, universal truths that go beyond their culture or era. Because according to Shelley, poetry is not for the present but the future. Listen to what he says. Let's continue. Here, Shelley makes a striking observation. He says poets are rarely celebrated in their own lifetime. Why? Because true poetry is not for the present, it is for the future. Poets must have patience to let time prove their worth. Wow, karam karte chalo. Fal ki ichha agle janam mein karo. What is it? All right, this takes us to the third part of a defense of poetry. The summary goes as follows. Come, let's read the poster together. Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Law people. What does it mean? Shelley says poets shape the value, the language, and the moral direction of the society without being noticed. They don't just stir emotion, rather, they build civilization. How? Through their art. They influence people how to think right, how to feel, and how to act. So for Shelley, poetry is the heartbeat of human progress. How is the heartbeat? Lap, tap, lap, tap, lap, tap. So poetry is the heartbeat of human progress. As long as poetry exists, humanity will continue to grow, evolve, and it will avoid falling into corruption, into the ditch of corruption. Done with this short and sweet summary of a defense of poetry, I will love to now analyze it, which means I will give you the gist of the entire essay. Are you ready to do it with me? Yes, you are. For Shelley, poetry is the expression of the imagination. That is, poetry is the source from which all the other arts and imaginative works flow. Shelley emphasizes that poetry is not something we can create by force of will. Rather, a man cannot say, I will compose poetry. I will not get up one day and say, I can compose poetry. No, poetry must come spontaneously from the imagination. Poetry cannot be summoned like logic or reasoning. And sadly, Shelley says, not everyone can be a poet. One must be called to it. Wow, is it like a divine intervention that Shelley is talking about? Next, Shelley says that poets and philosophers are one and the same. See, great thinkers who were philosophers, great thinkers like Plato and Bacon, they were philosophers in body, but they were poets in spirit. Why? Because philosophers like Plato and Bacon revealed hidden truths about life using language that was beautiful, rhythmical, mystical, and visionary. So, any revolutionary thinker, that is, anyone who has changed how we see the world, is at heart a poet. This is an analysis of a defense of poetry, right? Let's move on. More analysis. Such visionaries, such philosophers who are poets at heart are guided by what Shelley calls the eternal music. Their words don't argue, rather, their words resonate. They echo the deep harmony of truth. And after this, Shelley critiques the Enlightenment thinkers. Yes, the critique is happening of Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire, Locke, and Rousseau. Shelley says, yes, they championed reason. Yes, they did change the world. Yes, they used reason to uplift the society, but reason is not enough to uplift humanity. Shelley says, even without these Enlightenment thinkers, world would have reached similar intellectual heights. But without poets, not possible. We cannot even imagine what the moral state of the world would be if Dante, Chaucer, or Shakespeare did not exist. Even I can't imagine a life without Shakespeare, right? Chalo. Now Shelley says, poets, unlike philosophers, shape not only our minds, but our hearts. Without poets, society would collapse into spiritual decay. It's not reason that saves us, it is imagination. It is not politicians or scientists who preserve our soul, it is the poet. Done with the analysis, and now very happy to return to the line that started today's video, line that made literature. Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And I don't want to stop the video right now. I have so many important quotes from this work. Let's start reading them. I'm going to read the first page. You're going to read the rest. Okay? Let me read out a few important lines. First, a story of particular facts is as a mirror which obscures and distorts that which should be beautiful. Poetry is a mirror which makes beautiful that which is distorted. Next line. A poet is a nightingale who sits in darkness and sings to cheer its own solitude with sweet sounds. His auditors are as men, entranced by the melody of an unseen musician, who feel that they are moved and softened, yet know not hence or why. Next, poetry is a sword of lightning, even unsheathed, which consumes the scabbard that would contain it. And here are other important lines. I'm not reading, I'm stopping, giving a halt of 10 seconds so that you read. Next. 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 And we are done. Wow. If you love the video, of course, you will like it, share it, drop down a comment. This is Heena from Team Vallath. Take very good care of yourself. Bye bye.